can be downloaded from our website at www.nisrenada.org/e-submission. Alternatively, you can provide us with your email address and the required Excel spreadsheet will be sent to you. Call 440-3309 or chat with us on social media for more information. NIS, serving you because we care.
And we are back, and of course, we are live as well, so you can check us out on Facebook. Power 95 FM Grenada. You can check out our Facebook page if you want to be part of this morning's conversation. So check us out there, or if you're listening on radio as well. We are indeed happy to have you in our company for another beautiful morning. And like I told you earlier on this morning, we have Mr. Dorsett Cromwell, the director of the National Insurance Scheme, as well as Lisa Douglas, the PRO. Of course, we will be talking about the unemployment, the NIS unemployment assistance benefit that a lot of you have been, seeking clarity on and needing more information on. So we'll have a series of these. You know exactly what's happening, what you have to do, and what information you need. All right. So without further ado, let me say good morning and welcome to my guest this morning, Mr. Dorsett Cromwell, the director, and of course Lisa Douglas, the PRO. Good morning, guys. Welcome to Power 95.
Hi, morning, Aruna. Welcome, thank you, and good morning to your listeners and viewers.
Hi, good morning also, Aruna. It's nice to be on the show today with you, and also good morning to your listeners.
Okay. All right, we're getting a bad echo, somebody says, so let's just sort it out for a second. Yeah, tech is and they're working on it. All right, guys, just work with us for a couple. Let us sort out the background echo. Hearing serious feedback, somebody says. All right, just work with us for a couple of seconds, and we'll be good to go. All right, we good now? Okay, let's try it again. Okay, Lisa, you can go ahead. Let me hear if you're good on your end.
She just wanted you to say something.
I'm here. Can you hear me clearly? I'm still hearing the feedback.
Yeah, we're still getting the feedback. All right, let me just check in on the live and see. It's still bad on the... Okay, let's just shut it out in the background, and then we'll come right back and get it going again. All right, guys, so work with us for a couple seconds. Let's just get it moving. In the meantime, don't forget, we'll be doing better. No, better yet? Okay, let's hold on. We're working on it. We want to make sure that we have absolutely no interruptions and you're able to hear really clear, because we have a lot of important information to disseminate this morning within this segment. It's better on the live. Yeah, it's better on my end, but we're getting the feedback from my guests, so we're gonna work on that and have it sorted out. So just give us a couple of seconds. All right. In the meantime, okay, we good again? Alrighty, so we're gonna try it again and see if we are good to go. All right. You hearing me too?
Yes, we're hearing you.
You're hearing me with, and are you still hearing the echo?
Yes, the echo is still there.
Yeah, the echo is still there. So the text on both sides, they're working on that. I'm reading the comments. Yeah, you guys will hear me. You're gonna hear me fine. It's good on my end, but it's on the other end. We're having that echo, and y'all not trying to hear any echoes this morning, right? So we want to make sure we have that sorted out properly, and we'll be able to take care of the conversation. So just work with us for a couple of seconds and we'll be good to go. Hold on, as soon as I'm getting the green light. Listen, let me play all your songs still because all this stuff to get antsy. Hold on. Relax. We got this. We're gonna work on it soon as we have the green light. I'm gonna tell you when we are good to go. All right. In the meantime, let me say good morning to those of you already tuned in, and don't forget you can share the live and give other persons an opportunity to be part of the conversation, because I know this is something a lot of you are interested in and trying to understand how it's working and how it's gonna work, right? So we good now?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, so we're gonna try it again. Yeah, I'm working with my tech guy who's giving me directions. So as soon as I've gotten the green light, we're good to go. We good now?
Yes, we're good.
All right, I think we can work with that now. All right, folks, again, my apologies. As much as we're trying to master technology, you know how it goes at times. And COVID-19 has definitely been testing us and pushing us to, really utilize technology best as we can. So we're going to have these little hiccups every now and again, but we're going to try as best as we can to work past them. All right, so like we were saying, we have Mr. Dorsett Cromwell, the director of the NIS, on board with us this morning, and Lisa Douglas, the PRO of NIS. And we are talking about the NIS unemployment assistant benefit that was rolled out and last week, and we're here to give you further details about it and how it's going to work, etc., etc. So, without further ado, let me just welcome Mr. Cromwell again. And we're talking the NIS unemployment assistance benefit. There has been a lot of conversation that has been derived as a result of this benefit coming on board. And the NIS on your platform has been, putting out information regarding how it is supposed to work and, the reason for the unemployment assistance benefit. So let's talk about the unemployment assistance benefit in terms of what is the purpose of it, and how did it come about?
Okay, morning again. Morning to you, Aruna, and to your listeners and viewers. So essentially, the benefit came about as a part of the government stimulus packages, right? Because the government, as a result of COVID-19, implemented a number of stimulus measures. And one of them was the unemployment assistance benefit to be managed by the NIS in the tune of $10 million. So that's essentially how the benefit came about. Now, as a consequence of that directive from government, which came following a cabinet conclusion, the NIS did a certain amount of work. Right? We did some internal work, the management, and additionally, the board contracted the services of an actuarial consulting firm that is Mona Chappelle, based in Canada. And that firm did all of the technical work. They designed the program, they costed it, and importantly, they looked at the impact of this program in conjunction with COVID-19 on the sustainability of the National Insurance Fund. Additionally, the firm provided some draft regulation to guide how the benefit is to be paid. And following all of that, we went back to the government. Well, the board approved the design that was presented by the actuary, and the board submitted parameters to the government of Grenada. The government of Grenada accepted the parameters that was presented by the National Insurance Board and went along with the regulation, because the regulations were in keeping with the design. And on Friday of this week, the regulation to support the payment of this benefit was gazetted, because as you would be aware, for the payment of any benefit, you have to provide the supporting regulation. So that is essentially how we went from not having a temporary unemployment benefit to having a temporary unemployment benefit in the amount of $10 million.
Okay. So you mentioned that the actuary consulting firm based in Canada was used to design, cost, and advise on the introduction of this temporary unemployment assistance benefit. What are some of the factors used to come up with the figure that we are working with now? Bearing in mind, of course, there are persons who are saying we are making different contributions, and bearing in mind that there is no actual unemployment benefit apart of what we pay monthly. How did they come to that final figure?
Okay, so just to speak specifically to what you're asking in two respects.
Mhm.
Firstly, I would break down the 9% that we pay. Right? I have to say we because all of us pay. I pay also. So the 9% that we pay for NIS, right? We pay 6.5% towards the pension. That is age invalidity survivors pension. For sickness benefit, we pay 0.75%. For maternity allowance and grant, we pay 0.4%. For funeral grant, we pay 0.07%. Employment injury, we pay 1%. And then we have a 0.28% for administrative expenditure. So that's how we end up with a 9%. And so you would see in the 9%, there is no provision for an unemployment benefit. Now, in coming up with the figure and the design of the program, they actually would have taken a number of things into consideration. They would have, of course, taken the present situation of the scheme, because you would recall in 2019, the NIS went through a series of parametric reform. And in 2019, we spoke about the state of the fund and where it is at. So for instance, since from 2016, we were paying out more in benefits than we were actually collecting in contribution. And that continued, for instance, in 2019 itself. So in 2019, we paid out $95 million in benefits to contributors. That included $70 million in pension, in age pension alone, $4.8 million in survivors pension, $8 million in sickness benefit, $2.2 million in maternity allowance, and yes, so a total of $95 million. Now we paid $95 million, but we only collected $85 million in contribution. So we had a gap of just about $10 million between what we paid out in benefits and what we collected in contribution. Now, for 2020, for instance, for these first 3 months that we have looked at so far, we have paid already $24 million in benefits. For the rest of the year, we are projecting that we will pay $107 million in benefits alone. That does not include the $10 million that we are going to pay for the unemployment benefit. So for 2020, we are going to pay roughly $117 million in benefits total. Now, while we are paying more, right, we are going to be contributing less, because in 2020 we have the rollback of the 2%. So that is going to affect the income that we collect. Additionally, because of COVID-19, we are going to have a reduction in contribution income. That is natural, because employers would have laid off persons, some employers would have closed down, just as a consequence of the decline in economic activity. Additionally, we are going to see a decline in investment income, right? Because we have investment locally, we also have investment regionally and internationally. So there's going to be a decline in investment income, contribution income. In addition to that, because of the situation that everybody faced, the board saw it fit to offer a moratorium to its contributors, and to some of its tenants, it offered reduction in rents, right? The rents that tenants were supposed to pay. So you have some person got 100% waiver, some person got 50% waiver. But we thought that is necessary, given the times and the struggles that everybody in. So when the firm looked at all of these. The actuarial firm looked at all of these. They looked at the present situation, the fact that we were in 2019 going through a series of parametric reform, the fact that the 2% that we got in 20, the recommendation for the 2% increase just started to take effect in January. And the recommendation for the increase in the retirement age has not even yet been implemented. And they recognize that as a consequence of all of that, there is just so much that the NIS could do. And therefore, the $10 million, and even with that, the $10 million that we are going to pay, in conjunction with the impact that COVID-19 is going to have on the NIS, is going to present further sustainability issues for the NIS.
So I have a good question. So with regard to this unemployment benefit the law passed to accommodate this payment, is it temporary or would it be a permanent fixture?
No, it is not. It is not a permanent fixture. It is only temporary. It runs from May the 1st for a period of 6 months. We are paying a maximum of $10 million. And we must add that the $10 million comes from the NIS reserve. And there is no contribution from the government of Grenada. So essentially, this money is NIS money. It is our money. It is money that you and I would have contributed towards the other benefits that we are entitled to, towards our future pension, etc. So there is no. It is not a permanent program. It will come to an end either after 6 months, or if we have exhausted the $10 million. At either point, the program would come to, the temporary program would come to an end.
Because that seems to be the bone of contention out there, that the government provided $10 million to the NIS. And the NIS since says it's coming from the reserves. Explain this reserves for us and what does that mean really?
But the reserve is simply the accumulation of assets, all of the assets that you have. So in the reserves, we would have, for instance, we would have cash in the bank that would count in the reserve, and we would have lands that would count in the reserve. We would have this building here is an asset that would also count. We have international investments. We have monies overseas that would count. So your reserve is simply an accumulation of all the assets that you have. Some would be liquid assets, and some would also be assets that are not very liquid. For instance, we have over $100 million in properties. That is not readily liquid. So if there is an issue and you have to liquidate, you cannot, land don't sell very, very quickly. Certainly not in this environment. So essentially, the reserve is just all of the assets all of the different assets that you have. Some are liquid, some are not very, very liquid.
Okay. So in terms of, where am I getting an echo? So in terms of, I remember going back to Hurricane Ivan when something similarly occurred, and persons were given, let's say contributions for want of a better word, some assistance for want of a better word during that period. And we are now in 2020. Will we have a conversation moving forward to include unemployment benefits as part of the other benefits? Because mostly what we're paying is contributing towards our pension and stuff like that. And a lot of people seem to be under the impression that their contributions over the years could be 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Unemployment was part of it. So now that this is on the table, is this a conversation that we are going to have or put things in place to ensure that it is also added to the benefits that we also have and are already paying for?
Couldn't agree with you more. Certainly, it is a conversation that we need to have. And I would tell you from when we have done public discussions and the public relations officer, Lisa, would have gone out to workplace, it is a conversation persons are always asking about, the possibility of introducing an unemployment benefit, because this $10 million would be the second time in our history that we are paying an unfunded benefit. And you can only do that so many times before it starts having significant impact on, on the NIS itself, on the sustainability and the ability to pay people pension, etc. So certainly it is a discussion that we need to have. And I can tell you, in the CARICOM, there are essentially two countries that have permanent programs. You have Barbados, who have a permanent unemployment program, I think, believe since 1981. And in Barbados, employees pay 0.75% and the employer pay 1%. And the persons in Barbados get 60% of their salary, when the time comes, if there is an unemployment issue. Similarly, in the Bahamas, there is an unemployment program. And the unemployment program in the Bahamas came out, I believe, after one of the hurricanes. So they introduced a temporary program, and then they transitioned from the temporary program into a permanent program. So in the Bahamas, the employees are paying 0.5%, the employer is paying 0.5%, and persons there are getting 50% of their salary. So if this environment and this particular situation, I think, teaches us and says to us there is an opportunity to do something permanent, so that the next time something comes around, we are in a better position. We would have collected monies for it. Persons would have collected and paid for it. Persons would now be entitled to the benefit, and what we offer can be more generous, right? So you can offer maybe 50% of person's salaries, 60% of person's salaries. You can then be more generous because you have monies in the fund that have accumulated for this benefit, for this particular benefit, and you can do what Barbados is doing and pay 60% of salary, or the Bahamas and pay 50% of salaries. So certainly there is a discussion to be had on introducing a permanent unemployment benefit program in this period. And it is not only for periods like this, it is for during normal periods also, because let's say I'm working with an employer and he decides, he does not no longer want to continue the business. He closes down the business, lays off, all of his employees. The employees then become entitled to the unemployment benefit, and they get paid a certain amount of their salary, whether it's 50 or 60% for a period of time while they look for another job. Mm-hmm. So it is definitely a very good benefit, and it is most definitely a discussion that I believe we should have to introduce something permanent going forward.
Lisa, just to chime in on the conversation, of course, with the time that we're working with, maybe we can talk now about who is eligible for this unemployment assistance benefit.
Okay, everyone who is directly unemployed as a result of the COVID-19 virus can qualify. So all employees, all self-employed contributors. For employees, the claim would be submitted by your employer. So you need to make contact with your employer. Make sure you have your banking or your credit union account details ready to give to your employer, because everything will be done electronically. So the employer would go online onto the NIS website, or the self-employed person. So that's the only time a person would claim for themselves if they are a self-employed contributor. You would go online on the NIS website, www.nisgrenada.org, and there is a tab right on the homepage that says unemployment. You click on that tab, and inside that tab, you would see a form for the unemployment assistance benefit. You click on that form, you fill it out, and you click submit. It's as simple as that.
For those who are self-employed.
For those who are self-employed, they're following the same process. They go onto the website, they click on the unemployment tab, and they fill out the form because they're both the employer and the employee in that case. So they are responsible for claiming for themselves.
All right. And what about persons who are probably receiving income support or payroll support from the government?
Okay, good question. Now, we want to ensure that during this period that everybody gets a little piece of the pie. So we want to ensure that the monies that are available, persons who are already receiving income support, that they leave it for persons who are not receiving. So the benefit that we are offering are for persons who are receiving no salary at all. So for example, if you receive something from the government or from your employer or from another job, because some people have two jobs, it means that you would not qualify. It must be a case where you received no salary at all.
Okay. So I'm not sure if it's the actual numbers or if it's a one-off. It should have been a one-off. But the flat monthly payment, how would it work?
Okay, so every month you would go onto the website and make your claim. So we start payments this week. So the form is up on the website. You can go on today, submit your claim. You would get paid by the end of this week. And at the end of, for every month, you have to do the same thing. So if from the month of June you're still unemployed, you submit a claim for June. If for July you're still unemployed, and it goes right up to October until the $10 million are exhausted.
All right. Let me just jump back to Mr. Cromwell for a bit. Um, in the statement that you made last week, you practically said that the 10 million will be shared equally among all, no distinction between higher and lower income workers. So it matters not what your contribution would have been over the years or what you continue to contribute, but no distinction. Why was it done that way?
Well, you had a couple issues here. One, you had to ensure that you made it with there.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Yes, a couple things. One, administrative ease. So you wanted a program, you wanted to design a program that was relatively easy to administer at short notice. So that was one of the consideration. The other consideration too was the cost because of the amount that we had allocated to it. Remember, you have $10 million, and you are splitting $10 million between 5,000 persons. Now we are projecting 5,000, but it could very well be 15,000. It could very well be 20,000. We really do not know. But based on our situation analysis and some of the projections that we run, we're estimating 5,000 persons. Now, if we do a percentage based on salary, you are going to run into some issues because you would have somebody, let's say, do 30% of 5,000. You get a certain amount. You do 30% of somebody who has, let's say, a salary of $500. You get a much lower amount. So we wanted to ensure that there was some level of equity in this program, and the easiest way to ensure equity is to give everybody the same amount of money. Right? We understand, of course, that people, based on their income and their lifestyle, you have different responsibilities, you have different expenditure, of course. But this program essentially is intended just to provide some support to keep persons in this very difficult period. We understand, of course, that the program, how it is designed, does not do everything for everybody, right? But based on our own limitations, and in this particular situation, with the issues that we are facing, we were not in a position to do everything or assist persons in a significant way. I tell you, for instance, for the month of May, the month of April, when we paid pensions $8 million in the month of April. And in order to pay that $8 million in April, we had to break some fixed deposit in some of the local banks. And we estimate that we will have to do that for a number of months, given that contributions that we are going to receive would decline. So that is some of the consideration that we had to take in place. Our own limitation in terms of assisting and also ensuring there was equity. If we were able to afford more monies to put into the program, then we would have been able to do a percentage of person's salary. You get 30%, I get 30%, regardless of the salary, etc. But given the limited amount of monies that we could afford to, and I say limited guardedly because we are still talking about $10 million, right? But given that and the amount of persons that we project will apply for the benefit, it was more equitable for everybody to get the same amount, and it would allow for ease of administrative ease in terms of managing the program.
So you mentioned as well that the NIS is asked to pay more. I'm not sure I understand what you meant by more, but while losing income in a significant way, um, also the 2% rollback of contribution rate. Could you further explain that for us?
Well, you have a couple issues in this period, right? As I said initially, for 2020, we are going to pay just $117 million in benefits, right? That is $107 million from normal benefits, and then we are going to pay $10 million in this unemployment benefit program. So we're going to pay $117 million in benefits. I believe we are projecting to collect just about 80 something million dollars. So you can see even in this period, we are going to be a bit short, right? Now, on top of that, you have a couple things happening, as I said before. We started with a 2% in January of this year, but of course, we have a rollback, which is going to take place for 3 months. So for those 3 months, we are going to lose a certain amount of income because we are going to lose 2% from every person that is contributing. 2% from the employee and 2%, well, one from the employee, one from the employer. So for every contributor that contributes to the NIS, we will lose 2%. Additionally, we have already started seeing it. We are going to lose contribution income from employers just because of the decline in economic activity. You would have fewer persons contributing. We have been getting loads of letters from persons saying, listen, because of this COVID-19, I've closed my business. I do not know when I'm going to start back, right? On top of that, you have employers who have laid off persons. On top of that, you have employers who may have rotated persons and reduced their salary, etc. Some persons working for 3 days, 4 days, etc. So as a consequence of this, you are going to receive less contribution income, right? Additionally, on top of that, we are also going to see a reduction in investment income on our local investment and our international investment. And we will not be surprised to see down the road that governments are saying they are going to restructure the debt. You would recall that after Hurricane Ivan, the government of Grenada restructured its debt with all of its creditors. Right? Barbados recently did a similar thing, and you are going to see that happen. It is possible that will happen with a number of countries. Now, if it happens with countries where we have sovereign bonds, it is going to affect us, right? Because when they restructure, they would say, listen, you would have to take this money over a longer period, or you would receive some reduction in what you are going to pay. We do not know for sure, but we anticipating that is going to happen. So all of these reduction in income going forward, right, taking into consideration where the NIS is not actuarially very strong, is going to affect the NIS going forward. So I think that is the point that I was trying to make. And if I compare, say for instance, with a country like St. Lucia, because one of the things that you see in this period is that different social security schemes are doing different things. So if you watch our program and you watch St. Vincent program, you would see very similar program. We are paying $330, St. Vincent is paying $300. We are paying for 6 months, but they are paying for 3 months. We are paying a maximum of 10 million, but St. Vincent is only paying a maximum of 2 million. So we are very similar with St. Vincent. And the reason for that is Grenada and St. Vincent the social security systems are very similar in terms of sustainability and in terms of their financial strength. Now, if you compare with St. Lucia, for instance, St. Lucia is offering a much more generous program. St. Lucia is paying, I believe, a minimum of $500, and you could go up to $1,000 or 1,500, something like that. Now, why is St. Lucia able to do that? St. Lucia is able to do that principally because St. Lucia is much more sustainable. Because the changes that we are just talking about and we have just implemented, St. Lucia have done that years ago. So, for instance, the retirement age that the government of Grenada has agreed they are going to implement, which is not yet implemented, St. Lucia has reached the 65 years since in 2015. Okay, so they are much more sustainable and therefore they can afford a more generous program. It is still an unfunded program, but they can afford to be more generous. St. Kitts is very similar. And the reason why St. Kitts can be a little bit more generous than us is that in St. Kitts, when you pay NIS on your full salary. So if you're making $15,000, you're paying $15,000. If you're making 10,000, you're paying on 10,000. In Grenada, we have a ceiling of $5,000. So persons who are making 15,000, 20,000, etc., are only paying on 5,000. So that is why St. Kitts can be more generous. So you would see different programs, different social security systems in the region doing different things, but it is principally because they are different stage of sustainability. But in terms of comparison, you can see Grenada and St. Vincent are doing a very similar program. We are still more generous because we are paying $10 million and they are only paying 2. But in terms of amounts, we are in the same ballpark, principally because we have the same issues and we are the same kind of financial strength.
Well, we are almost out of time. Well, we are not almost, but there's one question that I need to ask before we run, because a lot of folks have been messaging and talking about what about the employers who have not been paying contributions to the NIS, and now these employees find themselves unemployed. How does the NIS intend to tackle this problem? Are there any penalties that would be placed on employers who have not been making the contribution but have been deducting it from the employee's paycheck, and now that the employee is unemployed and wants to get the unemployment benefits, how will that hinder the process?
Well, that's one of the challenges that we face, but we are still hoping that the employers who have not been contributing to the NIS would include for a particular employee, or would still include them, on the list. But you will probably have this situation where an employer has not been contributing at all, in which case the person would be really disadvantaged, because if it is that there is no contribution at all from the employee, there is we would not have any records to go with. What we would encourage persons to do in those circumstances is to call the office or come to the office and lodge the particular complaint so we can take it from there. Because what we would not want happen is that persons who are entitled to a benefit, who are working and who are unemployed, principally because of COVID-19, do not get the support that they really deserve and should be entitled to. So for those persons, we would ask them to call the office and explain the particular situation. We would take the details of the employers and we would have to treat with those separately. So just do not sit back and do nothing. Call the office, come into the office, and let's try to deal with it from there.
Mr. Cromwell, thank you so much. Lisa, maybe again you could just tell us the guidelines and maybe quickly the website where you can go get those forms.
So to claim, remember, it is totally electronic. So you go onto the website, nisgrenada.org. There's a tab named Unemployment. You click on that tab, and under that tab, you would see a number of forms. Choose the one that says Unemployment Benefit, And there you fill out your name and the other particulars. And most importantly, you must have your bank or your credit union account information handy, because your benefit will be sent straight to your account. So if you're an employee, you have to provide that information to your employer. If you're self-employed, you must have that information when you are going on to complete the process. At the end of it, you click submit and your application is done, and your benefit, excuse me, by the end of this week will be in your account.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Well, folks on the live, I know you have a lot of questions, but this will not be a one-off. We will have you back again. So any further questions? There's a lot of questions I see that we need to do follow-ups on, and folks have been following along in the chat that we will put to our guests. So like I said, it's not a one-off. You will be given the opportunity to ask your questions again. So just want to say thank you so much, Mr. Cromwell and Ms. Douglas, for gracing us with your presence this morning and giving us the information. So until next time, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good day, all.
Thank you, Aruna.
Thanks
Have a good
so
day.
All right. Folks, that has been Mr. Dorsett Cromwell, the director of the NIS, and Lisa Douglas, the PRO of the National Insurance Scheme as well. Like I said, I know you guys have a lot of questions, but they will be back again on another program. And what we will do probably in that one is to take some of your questions, maybe some things you need more clarity on, and we'll be able to pass it on. But what I got out of all of this is that we need to seriously lobby for unemployment benefits. And like Eddie said yesterday, we are not minding our business. These are the things that we need to lobby for, so hopefully we will get together, we'll have, conversations and get it on stream, because that's the only way it will be possible. Because some folks may not like to hear, hey, you're getting a contribution that you're not contributing towards. But that's the actual reality. And this is something that we need to have in place, because things happen and we don't necessarily have to wait for a disaster or pandemic. People lose jobs every day. And, like in other places, the US, etc., while you're searching for something else, you get some unemployment benefits that can tide you over at least 6 months. And then, you get something else. So this is something that we really, really need to continue the conversation on. So let's do it. Let's have the conversation, and it will mean maybe digging a little deeper in our pockets and contributing. Then we're going to have to do it. All right. But that's all the time we have. Of course, we got more on the other side of 11 when we are inside the room, the ladies' room. And I'm expecting gentlemen from the Bus Association to be here with us. So I hope you guys will come back to get more information regarding that issue. All right. So see you guys on the other side.